Hi, it's Mark from Top Local Lead Gen. We're here with Sheetal Gupta of Maharani Jewels in Vancouver. They're an award-winning jeweler, custom jeweler in Vancouver. How are you doing today, Sheetal?
I'm doing really well. Thanks so much, Mark.
So we're gonna touch on, I guess, quality. How do we recognize craftsmanship in fine jewelry?
That's a really great question, Mark. I feel that we live in a time right now where jewelry is mass-produced. And when something is mass-produced, unfortunately, quality does suffer. And you don't see the same level of craftsmanship that existed maybe 50 years ago, where you had goldsmiths and craftsmen that made jewelry by hand. But there are some things I want you to look out for when you are purchasing jewelry. In particular, I'm going to showcase rings today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what you can look out for when you are purchasing a ring or an engagement ring, for an example. So I'm going to take you over to a slideshow. Please bear with me as I take you over there. We're going to start here with point number one. Firstly, when you purchase an engagement ring or any other piece of jewelry, it should be stamped. Here you see a gold band, and on the inside it shows the 18K stamp. If it's platinum, it'll be stamped with platinum. If it's 14 karat, it'll be stamped with 14 karat, but it needs to be stamped. The second piece is that the gemstones, in this situation you've got a diamond, it needs to be set with prongs that look strong and not thin. So the arrow here is pointing to a prong that's, well, there's one of four prongs that it's pointing to, which is round. It's not just proportional, but it's solid. It's covering up the diamond. The purpose of the prong is to keep the diamond held between them so that it doesn't get loose. So that would be point number two, is that the prongs should be strong. The third thing is that overall, the ring should not be lightweight. There should be a decent amount of weight to it. A good indication of that is the overall width of the ring. In this case, we're looking at the shank. The shank is basically the bottom of the ring. And here where the arrow is pointed, you can see that the area is quite narrow. And what happens when the shank is very thin is that over time it can break. So this next slide will show a shank that is quite thick. And that's a good weight. So when the ring is being worn for years and years, sometimes decades, even with a bit of wear and tear, that area is still going to remain strong and solid. And so it will resist not just any sort of bending, but breakage as well. The next part is that where the diamond setting actually meets the actual band. So here you see the arrow pointing to that midsection there. That area needs to be thick. It needs to be strong and solid. When that area is narrow, when that area is very thin, as you can imagine, with wear and tear, that entire top structure can actually break off if it's not solid enough. So what you need to look out for is where your diamond is set, the connection between the setting of the diamond and the actual band needs to be strong. Now I'm going to talk about specific settings. This particular setting is known as a channel setting. The mark of a good craftsmanship is when those rails or those channels are straight. They're in a beautiful, straight, continuous line. They're not irregular. That basically shows that the workmanship is clean and crisp. And the next type of setting here is called a bead setting. The arrow points to those round circular beads, also called milligrain beads. When those beads are perfectly round, they're crisp, they are clearly defined, again, that's a sign of good craftsmanship. When the beads are irregular, they're not all perfectly round, again, that shows that the craftsmanship isn't as nice and not as crisp. So those definitely are the 5 indications. I think the only thing that I would like to end with is the finishing. The finishing is something that happens to a piece of jewelry at the very end. This is after the diamonds or the gemstones have been set into the piece of jewelry. And you want to make sure that everything is even. When you see irregularities in the ring, when you see bumps, when you see solder marks, or you see any sort of nicks and scratches, those are again signs that the ring hasn't been finished well. So you do want not just to focus on the little details, but the overall polish, the overall finishing of that. So those would be my top 6 things for you to look at when you are looking at quality craftsmanship in a ring.
So if you want expert information about your next jewelry purchase, the person to talk to is Sheetal Gupta in Vancouver. Maharani Jewels, you can reach her at 604-727-0149. You must call to book or go to her website, maharanijewels.com, full of great stuff you'll love. Thanks, Sheetal.
Thanks a lot, Mark.